If you've ever felt completely swamped by all the different ways people claim you can make money online, this breakdown is for you. We're going to cut through the noise and build a real step-by-step roadmap to earning a living from home in 2026, even if you're starting from square one. So let's dive in.
Man, does this feel familiar? You know that late night scroll where it seems like literally everyone else has figured it out? You see all the highlight reels, the so-called laptop lifestyle, and that little voice in your head just starts nagging you. Am I getting left behind here? And that's the real question, isn't it? Once you filter out all the obvious scams and the promises that are just way too good to be true, you're left with one simple, honest question. What's the real path? What actually works for a normal person? Okay, so the very first step is to realize that most people fail because they're trapped by a fundamental misunderstanding right from the start. We can call it the online income lie, and it all comes from asking the completely wrong question from day one. So this is absolutely crucial. We've got to flip our thinking. See, the internet isn't some magic ATM. It doesn't just pay you for being online. It pays you for creating value. So instead of chasing the next top method, you need to start thinking like a problem solver. That's the only way to build an income that actually lasts. Now, let's be real for a second. When most of us say we want to make money from home, the money itself isn't really the final goal. No, it's just the vehicle. It's what gets us something way, way more important. This is what we're really after, right? Control over our own time, a sense of security for our family's future, the freedom to finally walk away from a job that drains the life out of us, and just escaping that constant financial weight on our shoulders. That is the real why behind this whole thing. And because that's the real goal, our strategy has to change. The classic mistake is trying to replace your entire job the minute you start making a little money online. But honestly, that just trades one kind of stress for another. The smarter, more strategic goal is to first replace your dependency on that job. The math here is incredibly simple, but so powerful. Let's say your expenses are $3,000 a month. If your online income hits that same number, you're just surviving. But look what happens when you push that income to $5,000. That $2,000 difference, that's your financial margin. And that margin isn't just money, it is your freedom. It's the breathing room that buys you time to learn, to experiment, and to grow without being desperate. So, how in the world do you build that margin? Well, we need a clear mental model for this. Let's look at it as the digital income ladder. It's a simple step-by-step framework for building a real, sustainable income online. Think of it like this. The ladder has 4 main rungs. You start at level 1, stability, just getting your footing. Then you climb to become a skilled operator, where your income is tied to the results you can get. After that, you become a leverage builder, creating systems that earn for you. And finally, you become an asset owner. Now, the biggest mistake people make is trying to jump from the ground floor straight to level 3. You can't. You have to climb the ladder one rung at a time. Okay, so having the map is one thing, but how do you actually climb it? Especially in the competitive world of 2026, there are a couple of key strategies that you absolutely have to understand. The first big idea is something called skill stacking. Look, instead of trying to become the #1 best in the entire world at a single skill, which is nearly impossible, you combine 2 or 3 complementary skills that you're pretty good at. You don't need to be the best, you just need to be rare. And skill stacking is what makes you rare. Here's a perfect example of how this works. An average video editor, they make a decent income for sure. But what happens when you stack that with the ability to write good scripts and understand YouTube analytics? Well, now you're not just an editor anymore. You're a full-stack YouTube strategist, and your income potential just explodes. The second key is solving what we can call the distribution problem. I mean, just think about it. There are unbelievably talented people making $0 online for one simple reason. Nobody knows they exist. You have to build a way to get attention. It could be social media, an email list, whatever, but it is absolutely non-negotiable. So all of this really comes down to a simple formula. Your income is a product of your skill, multiplied by your distribution, multiplied by your consistency. You need all 3. A great skill with no distribution, you make nothing. Great distribution without a real skill, that's just empty hype. And without consistency, neither of the first 2 will ever have a chance to grow. All right. Let's make this super practical. Forget about the next 2 years for a minute. Let's just talk about what you need to do in the next 90 days to build some real, actual momentum. Here's the blueprint. In month 1, your only job is to pick one path, just one, and commit to learning every single day. In month 2, you have to start doing the thing. No more hiding. Get your work out there, even if it's not perfect. Then, in month 3, you use the feedback you're getting to refine your process and simply get better.
Now, it's so important to be realistic about the goal here. You're not going to be rich in 90 days. That's not the point. The point is to end the confusion. By the end of this period, you will have clarity on what actually works for you. And that clarity, well, that's the fuel for real long-term momentum.
So here's the hard truth. The digital economy is not slowing down. You are not late to the party, but you are responsible. Whether you act or not, 2026 is coming. And the only question left to answer is, will you be an active participant in building your own future? Or are you just going to be on the sidelines watching it happen?
All right, let's talk about what a real winning trading strategy looks like. And spoiler, it's not what you think.
You know the feeling. You see a setup that looks absolutely perfect. You jump in and bam, you're losing money.
Or maybe this is you. The perfect entry appears, but you freeze up and miss the whole thing.
Or you feel like you always have to be in a trade chasing every little up and down.
And then there's the classic revenge trade. You lose, so you dive right back in to win it back. Now,
if this whole emotional roller coaster sounds familiar, hey, you're not alone. This is most traders. And that's not just a feeling. Broker data shows that a staggering 70 to 80% of traders lose money.
but here's the kicker. It's not because they're bad at reading charts. It's because they can't manage risk. This is the huge difference. Amateurs are obsessed with the perfect entry. Pros, they focus on position sizing.
Let's just look at the math. Risking 10% on 5 losses wipes out 41% of your account. That's devastating.
And get this, after that loss, you need a 69% gain just to get back to where you started.
But if you only risk 1%, that 5% dip is just a bump in the road. You can survive that. This brings us to a really powerful idea, asymmetric risk. Your wins should be way bigger than your losses.
Think about it. Risk $100 to make $300. You can be wrong more than you're right and still make money.
The problem is, our brains are wired for excitement. Trading can feel like pulling a slot machine lever. So while amateurs are trying to predict the future, pros are just playing the long-term probabilities.
So here it is, the actual framework. This isn't a secret, it's just a discipline. And it works.
Let's make that 1% rule real. On a $5,000 account, you're only risking $50 per trade. Yeah, I know, it sounds kind of boring, but guess what? Boring is what scales in this business.
You know, I heard a story about a trader who never checked his daily profit. He only tracked his discipline. And he succeeded because he knew that discipline compounds, just like money does. He focused on process, not outcome.
So let's shift our thinking. The goal isn't winning every trade. The goal is surviving every trade. Because if you can survive the losses, you can stay in the game long enough to find consistency.
And that's the path. Consistency builds your statistical edge. And that is where real profit comes from.
So you really have to ask yourself, are you building an actual skill or are you just gambling?